distinguished members and representatives of international media. The Armenian Unified Info Center continues its operations at the moment from Goris. First of all, I would like to present the situation on the front line. Before speaking about the operations as such, I would like to state that today, several times already, the towns of Artsakh, the capital city, Stepanakert, Shuzhny, Hadrut, and a number of other towns and settlements were subject to the bombing and shelling of the Azerbaijani armed forces. We have casualties, and we will give you the clarified and precise data, and the respective authorities of Artsakh will give you the data. During the day, along the borderline, especially in the southern direction, we had fierce and intense fighting going on, and right now this fighting is ongoing. It is true that our armed forces have already had some success. However, the fight is fierce and very heated, and right now they are continuing intensely. Today, the opponent was able to hit heavily, but because of our heavy strikes, the adversary lost some equipment and machinery, and there were some videos posted onto the net. We do not publish some, however, we publish some officially, where we can see how the machinery of the adversary is completely destroyed and how they retreat. So such blows were hit on different directions of the front line, and by the official statement of the president of Artsakh, there were very clear statements and notifications on the success, and as well as the episode of the salvation of 19 servicemen. We also stated and spoke officially about the return of a number of positions which the adversary had succeeded in taking over previously. So this is the situation right now. The fighting continues, and our troops are brilliantly solving the tasks that are set before them. This much from me right now, and I will take your questions now. Kentron TV Vachik Grigoryan, Mr. Hovhannisyan, during the recent hours, the media is actively disseminating information that Syrian mercenary terrorists have come to realize that they were deceived, and seeing the advancement of our troops, they're trying to flee. Do you have such information? In general, the mercenaries do have such a trend. When they do not have anything to loot and they do not succeed, they start leaving. But we will give you details later, respectively. And another question, Mr. Hovhannisyan, in the morning you stated that the opponent is provoking along the border of Iran, and later we received information that escaping and fleeing the Azerbaijani and the adversary troops have found refuge in and shelter in the territory of Iran. We do have such cases normally, and that is why we made the statement officially, and we're really happy to see that the political leadership of Iran and the military leadership of Iran take specific actions. It is beyond my competence to comment on the actions, but the respective actions are taken. Thank you, Christina Agharlarian, Zartonk newspaper. You said that the adversary bombs and shells different settlements. It seems that they're targeting Shuzhny. Can you please tell us whether you have any data about the wounded citizens, and can you please give us some information about the caused damage? Unfortunately, I do not have any summarized information, but the casualties are there, and also we have people whose property, whose real estate, whose cars were either destroyed or have been damaged. The Office of the Human Rights Defender of Armenia and the political authorities in Artsakh give regular reports on this. I would ask you to follow the information disseminated, and also the Armenian Unified Info Center will give you data during the day. If we do not have any more questions from the hall, we have a number of questions that we have received electronically.
You're saying that the army is really making some success in continuing this war, but how much can you stand this war? I mean, do you have any help from other countries that will give you some معدات or whatever equipment?
Military material. Are you getting equipment and military material from other countries, friendly countries?
So you're saying Azerbaijan, Turkey is helping Azerbaijan with the equipment. What about Karabakh?
I understand the question. Our armed forces are now implementing military operations, and they win by themselves, completely by themselves, relying on the high combat capacity of our army and our people. I would like to underline that only within 48 hours, tens of thousands of our compatriots very quickly, and many of them on a voluntary basis, regardless of their age, came to the draft stations, and we have formed new military units. Yes, we have allies, but our allies are not next to us on the battlefield because we do not need this. We are implementing our military operations on our own, and we are winning.
Simon Ostrovsky, PBS NewsHour. Compared to when this latest war began at the end of last month, can you tell me whether your forces control more or less territory than you had then? По-русски могу спросить. По сравнению с тем моментом, когда началась вот эта последняя война, ваши силы контролируют больше или меньше территории, чем тогда?
The situation changes very quickly. To say how many square meters are under our control, it would be very difficult to state. We have really stepped back, we have left something behind, we have regrouped, because tactically speaking, we sometimes feel it more literate and expedient to circumvent or to draw back, but according to the square meters, the whole configuration has not changed very significantly as compared to the beginning of the war. The alleged territories allegedly taken over by Azerbaijan had changed, because right now in the southern direction we have very intense fighting and anything may happen. May I add another question? How are the forces, what is the correlation, the ratio between Armenian and Artsakh forces? Combat operations are purely implemented by the Defense Army of Artsakh. Are there no servicemen from Armenia? I already said that we have the reserve forces and the volunteers from Armenia.
Hello, I'm Jan Jessen from Funke Media Group in Germany. I read some news yesterday that Russia is thinking about attacking the bases of the jihadi mercenaries. Can you confirm this? Is there any information about this?
Ռուսների նշած ահաբեկիչների մասին մենք ունենք բոլոր
We
տեղեկությունները,
have all the information
որը ինչպես դուք նշեցիք,
which you already mentioned were already confirmed by the special services of Russia and the special authorities. A little bit details were received by the special intelligence service of Russia, naming the groupings. However, besides this service, other states also spoke about the respective groupings, including the USA and France and EU countries, and they stated that the approximate number is from 3,000 to 4,000. And today too we have information that Turkey continues the deployment of these terrorists, this time also trying to deploy or to import terroristic groups from Afghanistan. One more question, Mr. Hovhannisyan. Nikol Pashinyan, in one of his interviews today, said that according to the information he possesses right now, the foundation is laid for the final victory for Artsakh. Take into consideration that the interview was given a few hours ago, the information that you have right now, does it come to prove that he was right? Well, I can say that the Prime Minister of Armenia is quite right, because here we're having breakthrough in our combat, and that is the reason why he says that this can take us to a specific situation. So we have very intense and fierce fighting. They're ongoing, and it is possible that during the upcoming days or during the upcoming hours, everything may draw to its logical end. Mr. Hovhannisyan, maybe we should move on to the online questions. So right now, our colleagues from Arday would like to know whether today is the day of glorified victory. And can you give us some details on certain episodes? Unfortunately, taking into consideration the ongoing fight, I cannot give you any details, but I promise to you that sometime later in our history, we will have bold golden letters that will narrate the episodes of these recent days and the events of today too. These are heroic episodes. They are not few in number. We have too many of such stories and narratives. Please let us take our time so that our curiosity does not come to hinder our winning. So a question about the losses incurred by the opponent. Today, by the afternoon, they had already lost 260, 280 Azerbaijani servicemen, plus naturally terrorists. They lost them in action. Approximately from 60 to 80 military equipment was hit. I do not know an exact number, but we have some machinery also that was transferred to our troops. But because we have ongoing fights, I cannot give you very distinct numbers. I'm convinced that these numbers have increased significantly. There is another question that has to do with the rumors that have to do with the leader of the Islamic Party of Afghanistan. Do we have such information, and do our allies, our strategic allies, avail of information and details on this matter? I'm convinced that any action that is undertaken by Azerbaijan and Turkey in terms of deployment of terrorists are notified and are clear to both us and our strategic partner and our other partners. Our Shapat colleagues are writing. We have information that the opponent is backing in Jabrail direction. Can you give us more details on this matter? Well, I think that my very assertive manner and stance would help you hint at the success that we are having on the front line. But once again, let us not jump ahead of time, and perhaps I would be the one who would be very eager to really give out the happy news. But right now we have intense fighting going on, and at the moment success, partial losses, and as well as maneuvering are happening. We have mentioned this many times. This is not a small-scale war. This is a large-scale war. And please believe me, during the recent 30 years, no such dense military action, no such troops, artillery forces, missiles, UAV deployment was unprecedented, or there was very few and very infrequent as a conventional war. And in such a layout, different border changes, retreats, maneuvering are not very expedient to be discussed as separate episodes. When we have complete operations concluded and completed, we will have distinct results, and then the official leadership will consider it expedient to be presented and published. And you have already seen this dozens of times during these days from the already fixed intelligence surveillance points. Milena Mazayeva, Russian BBC service. After the strikes of Shushi's culture chamber, we have some information that we had some fatalities among the civilian population, but after that they found some evidence that there were some military servicemen. We had some helmets, etc. Can you refute or assert? I can tell you that we had civilian casualties in Shushi, but it is possible that we had some missiles targeting some buildings, and because the missiles and the bombs are quite large caliber and quite large capacity. So, for example, we have Smerch, we have 150 kilos, and after such strikes and blows, we can have simultaneously killed both military service among the military servicemen and the civilian population. In Karabakh, we have military ammunition because in these shelters, bomb shelters, we have people, and this is a population who lived in the fear of war, and this is something completely natural to them.
Добрый вечер, Антон Сарков,
интернет-издание
Storm Россия. Я хотел спросить вас насчет военнопленных.
I wanted to ask you about prisoners of war. Do they have any? Are there such prisoners of war, and what are you going to do with them? I would like to tell you, if we do not have an official statement made by the Defense Ministry of Artsakh or the Republic of Armenia that we do have prisoners of war, I cannot comment your question. I can neither confirm nor refute, because I am telling you again that today we had very intense and fierce fighting. We had the grouping of the Azerbaijani troops, a serious grouping, was destroyed. So here we have approximately 3 complete brigades, only in one direction. So after this, many things could have happened.
Hi, Soran Kurbani from Volon Media, London. My question is, from the military point of view, why they attack Stepanakert so heavily? What is their military objective?
Unfortunately, during 1990-1994, we have seen We already saw this manner of
Ստեփանակերտ
action,
Շուշիից
this style of action,
ենթարկվում էր
that
ամենածանր ու հուժկու
the town of
հարվածների
Stepanakert was
միայն
hit very
գրած
heavily
տեսակի
from Shushi.
զինատեսակներից
Only by
մոտավորապես
grad,
20,000 արկեր
approximately
արձակվում Ստեփանակերտի վրա
20,000
90-94
projectiles
թվականների ընթացքում։
were
Այսինքն
shot
գրեթե
onto
ոչինչ չի փոխվել
Stepanakert from 1990 to
եւ
1994.
միայն
Today,
այն, որ
not much has
Ադրբեջանի
changed,
զինված ուժերի
and
համար ուղղակի գերահարության առումով
the
հասանելի չի սովորական
simply
հրետանին, որ խոցի
it is
Ստեփանակերտին
not easy to use
իրար ունեն
artillery
ավելի մեծ ու
to
հզոր
hit
միջոցներ։
Stepanakert. That is why they are making
Ադրբեջանի
use
զինված
of
ուժերի
stronger
ցանկացած
military
հայտարարություն
capacity.
ռազմաճակատում
Any shameful loss on the
փորձում են
battle line of the
փոխհատուցել
Azerbaijani
քաղաքացիական
troops
անձանց
is
հրթիռակոծելով,
attempted at
անձամբ
compensating
իմ
by
աչքերով եմ
shelling
տեսել,
civilian
առաջին
population.
հարվածը,
I
որ
have seen
Սմերչով
it myself.
հարվածել են,
The first blow by
Ստեփանակերտ քաղաքին
Smerch
ես եղել եմ
on
ներկա, եւ տեսել եմ, թե
Stepanakert was in
ինչպես է
front of my eyes. I
հայերի
was
փրկարար
present there, and I
ծառայության
could
շենքը
see
այլ
how the
շենքեր
building
տուժում են
of the
հարվածից։
emergency
Դա
ministry
կարող եմ ասել, որ
being
հստակ
destroyed because of this
գործելավոճի,
strike. I can say that
մարդկային,
this
ուրեմն
is a
ցեղասպանության,
manifestation of a very
ցեղասպան
clear manner and signature.
չգիտեմ ինչ բառերով որթեգրեմ,
I do
իրենց
not know
պարտությունը
how to describe this.
քաղաքացիական անձանցից
Simply, they're
վրեժ
trying
լուծելու
to take
գործելավոճ։
the revenge of their losses from the peaceful population.
Հարց կա։
Can you tell us something about how the warfare changed by the excessive use of drones, like the Israeli Harov drone or the Turkish drones? So, how to fight them?
Գիտեք, Ադրբեջանի ռազմական ամբողջ կարողության մեջ
Within the whole military capacity of Azerbaijan, of course, UAVs are one of the most elaborate weapons. Not only that, but also the ballistic missiles from Israel, the LORAs, the drones, the anti-tank missiles, and a number of other means. Of course, in different episodes, they gave them some advantage, but the thing is that we are not convinced that, first of all, they were fully used by the Azerbaijanis. Secondly, they succeeded only in different episodes and in different sections, not throughout the line. And the Armenian air defense was fighting against this equipment and measures very successfully. Simply, there are too many in number. And besides, even if in different sections you can pinpoint and target some things, and you can destroy some piece of machinery, equipment, or infrastructure, the fight itself is conventional, and the land troops are supposed to establish, strengthen, and reaffirm your success. But we can see that in this sense, the Azerbaijan troops do not have a lot of things to take pride in. That we can see on a daily basis in the northern and in the southern directions, tens of thousands forces and units that are excessively equipped. They had only demonstrated military competence of only one battalion. So people who understand military art understand that this is a shameless loss and failure.
There are Turkish advisors on the ground.
We have facts that Turkish leadership or commanding powers conduct the planning. So specifically, the air operations are completely led and guided by the Turkish commanders. We have clear facts that they act as planners, as instructors, and as reconnaissance and surveillance forces. But specifically, the military units, for us to say, for example, example, that this squad or this company was completely Turkish. We do not have such facts so far. So questions that were received online. So in one of your publications you said, in one of your posts you spoke about another bombing and shelling of Shushi. Do you have any data? To tell the truth, I was on my way here when I received this information, and I saw even some videos, but I would during the dark hours, but I'm not really publishing and posting this. We will leave this place and then we will publish things. Our colleagues from Infocad.am say that we have many foreign reporters in Stepanakert who very often publish materials that should not be published. What is your attitude to this and how do you act against this? Well, we do have such cases. I do not really exclude the possibility. We have some officials, but due to you and due to the news service of the Defense Army, we try to coordinate everything. And on the other hand, it is clear that we are in the focus of the attention of the international community as a conflict, and we're really thankful to you as international media, because very often you are putting your life at danger, you're on the front line, you're in the settlement, and you can see it yourselves. So we will always have such problems given the situation, but we'll try to solve it. Irakan.am asks, now many parents are publishing photos of their children trying to find information about where they are. What is the procedure? Please trust me that the Ministry of Defense and the authorities of Artsakh are trying to do everything in order to identify and to give completely accurate lists and accurate data. But you can understand that this is the scourge of war, and this really makes it difficult to provide timely and accurate information. We do have some mistakes. That is the reason why we take our time before publishing this information. In some places, it is clear that we do not have any telephone connection. It is difficult to find out clear information. During the active operations, the commander is not able to identify the losses. They need time because they have incessant shelling and bombing, and this is a different kind of war. This is a different scourge. So this is different from 1994. This is different from the April War. This is a completely different situation. That is why we would ask for your patience and understanding. We really bow to them memory and to the feet of our soldiers, because this is a true and unique heroism. We're working in this direction on a daily basis. We're trying to identify who they are, who the losses are, who the killed in the action are. But you see that we have 19 people who were found today. It's true that we did not identify them as killed in action, but to us they were missing, right? But today we found them. So this is something that regularly happens at war. So we would really ask for your patience and for your understanding. We're doing everything, and we will do everything possible to make sure that you are informed. One of our colleagues says we had some information disseminated in the media that 2 UAVs of Azerbaijan were shot in the Georgian airspace. Now, do we have some information that the Azerbaijani UAV is trying to send the UAVs to Armenia using Georgian territories and air as transit? To tell the truth, I saw this information on the way, and I have not seen any official statement either on our side or on the Georgian side. I do not rule out any possibility, because if the Iranian border is used and is at risk, the same can be said also about the Georgian border. The last one, Nursultan says the Prime Minister of Armenia, when speaking to RBK, spoke about the actions of the terrorists, saying that if the Defense Army succeeds in pushing it back, it will continue its operations. It seems that I already answered that question, and to add to my answer to our colleague from the Georgian media outlet, I would like to say your question on whether we see any Turkish presence in our land troops. I would say that for their policy and for their work style, perhaps it would be much cheaper and more expedient for jihadists to be killed. Maybe. This much. Oh, you have a question.
Excuse me. One question that Turkish media published about the involvement of Kurdish fighters from Syria and Turkey that they've been deployed in Artsakh front line. What's your comment about that?
We have heard this fairy tale and narrative for 30 years already. And it's not only us, you have heard this too. We have heard this story, this fairy tale, this myth for 30 years now that Armenia is supported by Kurdish militants. But they have never given us a proof that would state that we have ever turned to them for support or we have collaborated with them. Our armed forces do not need Kurdish people here, and unlike Turkish people, we're defending our land at the cost of our own blood, not others' blood. And the last question, with your permission. I have a technical question, journalistic question. So you very freely speak about the loss and you speak out very frankly. So why is there a ban to visit wounded soldiers? So on any level we did not get any permission to talk to the wounded soldiers. Do you mean ours? Yes. Unfortunately, we have grave experience from our previous wars, and doctors say that this gets in the way of their work, of their professional activities, because we very often have wounded soldiers who would require very quick reanimation or medical aid. So we're making use not only of military hospitals but also civilian hospitals, and so this comes from our experience. We're trying to make sure that nothing gets in the way of the doctors to act effectively and efficiently. I would like to say that our doctors are quite effective, and we have quite a high percentage regardless of the kind of the wound. When you get the wounded soldier getting to hospital, being hospitalized and not dying. So, for example, in April War, I was the curator for all these actions as the press secretary, and back then we would let the light wounded to go on screen as heroic soldiers. But the doctors kept saying that this is something that gets in their way when we have 24/7 medical help, and the doctors do not have enough possibility to act effectively. We have some time, and there is another online question. Mr. Hovhannisyan, different states condemn Turkish presence and participation in this war. Do you see any change in this regard? Do we see any change in the scale of Turkish participation? I answered to this question in the morning too. If any tactical or volumetric or dimensional change there is in relation to the Turkish participation, it is difficult to assess. But even if there is such a change, then this was caused by the operations of our military forces, not anything else. Thank you very much. This much for now. Good night.